Your account. Oh, stupid thing. Where are you?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 192 of Salvaggio and Cratty here for you again on a Wednesday night, 6:58 p.m., May 8th. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Twitch. Yeah, surprise. I'm
This is
putting
how
it
you
at the
close
beginning
the
of the
show.
episode now, too.
Yeah.
I'm putting it at the beginning of the show now, too.
Okay. All right.
Um, we're here, another Wednesday night. Bruins starting half hour. Give me Celtics and Bruins tonight. Bruins first, though. Um, Catching up on everything pretty much. Just a little catch up show, a little shorter show today to catch up on, what's going on with both teams. Both of us are a little banged up today,
Mhm.
um, with ailments, so it's affecting performance. We're playing through it though, because that's what you have to do this time of year. Brian, how are you doing?
Not bad. I feel like the way you've been talking right before we jumped on here, I probably am a little better off than you are right now, from the ailment standpoint, as you said. But doing better than I was. When was Game 7 of that Bruins game? Was that Saturday night?
Saturday, yeah.
Friday night, Saturday night. So yeah, doing a lot better than I was that night. With how obviously things going into that game seemed. Of course, coming out of it, and now coming out of that
Mhm.
Florida game, and of course the Celtics. In the midst of, we'll get into them obviously later, like you said, but in the midst of what is looking like it's going to be an absolute joke of an Eastern Conference semifinals. But like you said, we're starting with the Bruins, of course. And how could you not feel great about the Bruins with the way things have
Mhm.
gone? Obviously in the Toronto game, which I'm sure we'll touch on first, and then of course the Florida game from a couple nights ago to open up that series. What a start for the Bruins in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. As you all know at this point, unless you haven't been keeping up, the Bruins did bounce the Maple Leafs in 7 games yet again. It looked like it was going to end much sooner. That wasn't the case. They almost entered unprecedented territory. The only team, if they were to have lost to Toronto, to blow back-to-back series lead, 3-1 series leads in the first round in sports history. Thankfully, they did not do that because that would have been tremendously bad and unfortunate. They went 2-1 in overtime. Take the series. Swayman, excellent as always. 30 saves on 31 shots, big ones too. Um, Shots were 32 to 31 in favor of the Bruins. They actually gave away the puck 12 times, and Toronto only gave away once. Maybe if some of those giveaways did not exist, they would have won the game in regulation, but you never know. They also, as has become a trend, lost 55.3% of draws, not what you want. I saw the fans Phantom Menace in theaters, Duel of the Fates. Some of those scenes I've always wanted to see on the big screen. Very cool. And then the Bruins won, and it was great. What a day. Bergie was the banner captain. No way they were losing when that happened. He was fired up. Still very weird to see him do stuff off the ice
Mm-hmm.
with alumni. We'll never really feel not weird for a while. And on the other hand, we were robbed of what would have been an incredible hallmark moment of Jack Edwards' legendary career with an overtime winner that was not called by him. Sean McDonough, great call for sure.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
Ray Ferraro, like, unintentionally foreshadowed what could happen from the Hampus Lindholm bank pass. But speaking of him, Hampus Lindholm was fully arrived, Ryan. He's gotten a lot of flack, and rightfully so at times.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't win this game without Hampus Lindholm. That's a fact.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he was excellent in this game.
Yeah, I mean, just right when you needed him. Maybe this is a sign of things to come. Maybe you just need a game like this to get your footing under you, even as a vet. I don't know how many people noticed this. Maybe it was just me. JVR was like trying to score a hat trick in the first period.
Hmm.
He was flying. That was awesome to see. Um, the Carlo, tough look in the breakout was tough, or lack thereof. Breakout attempt. Matthews finds Nylander backdoor to break the scoreless tie in the third period. Um, Wild, but that's a game 7 for you. Sometimes you have to just really sweat it out. Um, Justin Brazeau nearly ties it. Um, and his unfortunate miss led to a pretty good outcome because it led to a kind of like half wrister, like not even like a saucer pass, like a hybrid between a regular and a saucer pass type of shot by Lindholm that somehow went in. Samsonov must have been screened. It was a really bizarre goal, but you'll take it. In a game 7, it doesn't matter how it matters how many, one of those types of situations. And then everybody goes back to the Torrey Krug type bank, and he used to do a pasta all the time. With this bank, Pasta just gets behind everyone. People were roasting Nylander and Marner's efforts there. It is what it is. It's
Hmm.
kind of a tough way to end it for them, no matter how you look at it. Pasta, he wasn't being denied there. It's just that
Hmm.
simple, and it's over. A minute and 54 seconds into overtime. Jeremy Swayman was absolutely phenomenal again.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of been the status quo at this point. I mean, it's interesting you bring up the roasting part about Nylander because I mean it was obviously a great play from Lindholm and Pasternak both. Um, but like I don't know, like in that and again, I lean more towards on the side of that side of the argument. But I have seen some people kind of say like, oh, do you put that more on just a great play from Lindholm and Pasternak,
That
or do you
too,
put
yep.
that more on? Because I mean that was like, how do you leave Pasternak that? I mean, obviously he was flying, so it's not like they left him open. But you know what I mean? Like, how do you
Yeah.
not know where that guy is on the ice at that point in time? Like that's obviously their best player in the moment. That's a guy you would think you would key in on. So to see them just not pick him up at all and just let him go right to goal was kind of astonishing to see again at that point in time, win or go home type of scenario.
Yeah.
But you shook your head more so I saw at the better play from Lindholm and Pasternak. So I feel like that's
Yeah.
kind of where you lean on that side of the argument or discussion
Yeah, no
rather.
doubt. Like it's been a while since the Bruins have executed that because nobody's really done it since Crew
Hmm.
left. Um, and it's just not a play that you can easily anticipate unless you're just a psycho.
Hmm.
Um, you can see into the future maybe. And this isn't a thing like the Bruins have done this year. So they unleashed it at the perfect time. Maybe that was in the plans. Like, let's save something like this for the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Um, but what a finish. They didn't make us sweat out overtime at least. Only a
Hmm.
minute and 54 seconds. Great finish. Great celebration. Um, just an awesome moment. Love to see Swayman's reaction too. He's got the stick behind his head like this. A bunch of the guys go to him first, which is awesome. I'm
Hmm.
glad not everybody went to Pasta. Obviously, he scored the goal, but like
Yeah.
give some love to the big man in the crease too, especially Olmark probably leading the charge there,
Hmm. Well, that's what when
which
I
is
saw that
awesome.
video, and I think I tweeted it out at the time too. I was like, that is the look of a guy that is in the moment going, "Holy crap! I can finally like breathe for a second. I don't have to
Yes,
save these
dude.
idiots' asses
Yes.
anymore." Like that was all he needed to do was just the whoo type of wave with his glove or his block or whatever to be like, I can finally have a second here to
I thought you
myself
were
and
about
not
to do
have to.
the Matthew Judon for a sec.
No, not the whatever
Ugh.
I don't know what you want to call that, the lick or the yeah.
Wiping his
Um,
nose or something. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's what I thought immediately. Like this guy has, like you said, stood on his head all series. He's been their MVP. And even going into the Florida series, game 1 was excellent. Again, we'll get to in a second. But I mean, you don't obviously win that series without. I almost said Olmark. You don't almost win that series without Swayman. I mean, he was fantastic. And like I said, that's where my mind was like, holy crap, I can finally, not have to save these guys' asses because I mean, he did it numerous times. He did it in the final. I feel like not a lot of people talked about this the final 2 seconds of the third period he had to save him from
Yep.
almost a
Good
horrific
point. Yeah.
own goal type of situation. I don't know who the defenseman was that it would have went off his
I
skate
don't
or
know.
whatever, but I'm like that's how close the Bruins season was to ending. I mean, Pasternak, people have said it, obviously biggest goal of his career so far. And maybe not a history changing. So like I'm trying to get the terminology wrong here, the point I'm trying to make. But for the sake of it, I'll say like a history for the Bruins, or I guess more future type of thing, changing goal. You lose that game. I feel like it's not crazy to think that Montgomery
Yeah.
loses his job. Um, I think you probably have to go through some sort of like Celtics level shakeup, like maybe make a tough decision
Mm,
here and there, move some
yeah.
guys just to kind of, because I mean, we've had this conversation before. you've come around to it. I feel like that, like there is this aura. You might have said it on the last show. Around this team, like they get to these spots and they just cannot get over the hump.
Mm,
So like, how do you get rid of that without cleaning something out of the locker room or moving a couple of
yeah.
guys here and there? So I think Pasternak, that goal there, obviously it was huge in the moment, obviously just to win the series, like you said, avoid another historic collapse. It clearly seemed to open them up a little bit and loosen them up in the first Florida game. I think that obviously transferred over really well. But in the sake of like long run, like that is a goal that saved a lot of people's jobs and kind of put the questions about this team, I think, off to the side ever so slightly just because of how things went down.
No, yeah, sorry, I'm just adjusting my little setup over here for when the Bruins start, my monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been wild to see how, the implications would have shooken out. I almost said shuck. I almost made up another past participle of the word shake, and shuck is a word itself, but we're not talking about corn over here. Um, yeah, it would have been really, really rough. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now you see it on the inverse. You got talking Toronto blowing it up. I personally think, just a little teaser for a future episode, I think they should get rid of Marner and Tavares,
Ooh, okay.
and Sheldon Keefe. But that's how I would do it. But
Yeah, why has the coach
um,
not been
I
dumped
don't
yet? You
know.
think that's a move
I
that would have been
think
made like immediately after this game ended?
so. They had breakup day, and then they have, I think it's like Shanahan, Trey Living, and someone else on Friday talking.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, if something happens after that, like they reconvene after that press conference, kind of talk it out and see where they go. Because I just don't know how you can stay with the same coach. And I think a guy like Craig Berube would be a great fit for them,
Well,
personally. But we'll talk about more like Leafs, like, off-season stuff, trades and stuff that can happen down the road, not
mm-hmm.
tonight. Um, Paul Bissonnette, I thought this was pretty funny, made a very specific Leafs game 7 prediction, in which it ended in Marner scoring the overtime winner. Didn't happen, of course, as we know. Marner's stat line: 20 minutes and 4 seconds of ice time, a -1 rating, one shot, 0 points.
He was horrible in this series. Like, talk about a
Yeah, I
guy that
don't
was a
know.
no-show.
There's a very much a nucleus problem with that team. Of course, you have what was going on with Matthews too. He had the illness. He got banged up in game 4 too with a weird hit. Nylander's migraine issues apparently affected his vision, so
Mm-hmm.
that is extremely prohibitive for a hockey player and an athlete in general.
Yep.
Um, I kind of wonder how much of a difference Joe Wool would have made. I don't think trotting him out there 100% would have been smart.
No.
Give credit to Samsonov too.
Yeah, he played well.
He played really, really well.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I don't know if Joe Wool wins this game for them, but I do think it's an interesting what if.
Mhm.
So do you have anything specific on that? Like, do you think it's a whole new mindset for the team going into it? Like, they got the goalie that has helped them get here after going down 3-1, or do you think it would just be much the same? It was written in the stars. The Bruins won.
No, I mean, I think there was a little something to it because I mean, I'd have to assume that that's kind of a tough thing to find out. Because I mean, they found out not like right before the game started, but I think it was kind of up in the air until the puck drop of who was going to be in net for Toronto. And then you find out like an hour beforehand or whatever it was, that Wall is not going to be able to go. So I'd have to think that was kind of a deflation of the all the air in the balloon of what was built up,
Yeah.
getting back from being down 3-1, kind of riding that guy's back. I mean, Wall, everyone kind of talked about it. I think you told me as well, like not the greatest goalie on the planet, but like we've seen crazier things happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And these are when these type of guys get hot and you can ride them. And like
Yeah.
you said, not to take away anything from Sansonov, because there was a couple times in that game where he's making some saves. Obviously, the Bruins were able to get to him in the first couple games of the series. I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm like, now this guy's gonna turn into a stone wall. You're not gonna be able to
Mm,
beat him in Game 7 again. Like this,
yeah. Crazy.
it's frustrating. And then obviously you get the goal from Lindholm, and things kind of not snowballed from there, but ended up obviously going in the Bruins' favor. So yeah, I'd have to assume it was in Toronto's minds a little bit like, all right, like we might not have our best option out here now. We're gonna have to, you know, be more perfect on execution and stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's just, yeah, it's an interesting what if. As a guy,
You could
I've
also
watched
flip
Joe
the
Wool a
argument
lot.
though, where if that is the case, then you could be like, okay, well, if that's the case, then your best players need to step up. And like you said, Marner did
Yeah.
nothing in this series.
Hmm.
Matthews to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because he was hurt and was sick. So, but even
Yeah.
before that, had a relatively quiet series. He did have what was it, game 2 or 3 was the big game he had.
Yeah. He
Tavares, I
scored
feel
the
like
game
did
winner.
nothing. Like I don't even remember his name being called a lot in this series.
Tavares did
So
nothing.
yeah,
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with them. I've seen Joe Wall play before, so I was a little nervous if he could, channel his best game and really put one together for them to win the series. Because watched him for a while at BC, watched him for the past few years too. So I know what he's capable of. So I was a little nervous who was going to be
Mhm.
in, but you never really know. Um, they average 3.2 million viewers on ESPN, and that is the most watched first round game since 2012 and the largest first round game seven audience in NHL
That's
history.
crazy.
And there is reason because it's Bruins Leafs and people who hate Boston, which is a lot of the country,
Hmm.
and probably people outside of the country, were rooting for the Bruins to live in infamy.
Yeah, that was going to be my takeaway too. Is like you have to assume those people tuning in just solely to see who could, because I mean it's two teams that have kind of had this in their DNA. Like the Leafs were the chokers before the Bruins, well, as we know. So I feel like there was some people tuning in too to be like, all right, which one of these teams is going to be the one that screws it up more, and ended up
Yeah,
obviously being Toronto.
yeah, you'll take it.
Absolutely.
It was a thoroughly entertaining game, thoroughly stressful, entertaining even with the low score. But Game Seven, Stanley Cup playoffs, there's just nothing better than it. Um, Game One in Florida had a much different tone to it. It started kind of rough, like good first shift or two by the Bruins. Potts had a couple shots, late on one. You're playing okay, just kind of feeling it out. It is what it is. Can't really worry too much. Um, then you just like really struggle to get shots, and it kind of goes back to what they've struggled with at times in the regular season and postseason. Just really struggling to keep offensive zone time, really struggling to prevent breakouts from the other team. Um, and once that turned and the Bruins figured it out, there wasn't a lot Florida could do.
Hmm.
And largely that comes from Morgan Geekie too, not just Jeremy Swayman's absolutely phenomenal performance. A Morgan Geekie goal shortly after Kachuk's that really propelled them and led to wonderful things. Swayman stops 38 of 39 in this 5-1 win. They outshoot the Panthers 39-29 after being heavily outshot to start. They had 26-11 advantage in block shots. They lost 58.7% of draws. Again, a theme
Just a
getting beat
common
on
theme.
draws.
Yeah.
Out hit the Panthers 57-46. They had 54 through two periods. So they only had three hits. They were kind of just cruising in the third. That's okay when you win. Just don't make a
Hmm.
habit of it, please. Um, it was nice to have that big rebound save from Swayman on Lundell early because although I thought it
Right out
definitely
of the
went in,
gate. Yeah.
I was like, okay, okay. This is nice. Swayman's here. Like, let's see how it goes. But like, this is good to see from your red hot goalie early. Another scoreless first period. Uh, the only forwards without points in this game for the Bruins were the fourth liners, and on the back end, it was Lindholm, McAvoy, and Forbert. So some spread out scoring. When Carlo was officially going to play late in the day, and they had like reassurance plans in case he doesn't, in case he can't get back in time from the birth of his son Crew. Congratulations to Carlos, by the way.
Yep.
Um, awesome. There was the plan for Forbert and Shattenkirk and Wotherspoon to move up, and I was kind of like I was ready to give Forward a chance, like if they feel it's necessary, like if they're confident, I'm gonna hear him out. We'll see how he looks. It's just a little concerning, and you also have the fact that Shattenkirk isn't necessarily this ironclad guy staple to your blue line.
Hmm.
So Carlos back, Shattenkirk's out. Wotherspoon moves to the third pair. Forbert stays in, and Derek Forbert looked good.
He did. Yeah. He was
Block shots,
pleasantly
like hit
surprised.
I think someone might have said he had like six block shots. He just he looked weirdly quicker than usual, like a little more
Hmm.
limber. Maybe that was just the vibes, like he's back, like a little more pep in his step.
I was just
I
gonna
don't
say
know,
that. Yeah. Haven't played in a long
but
time, so.
like I was pleasantly surprised with how good Forward was. I really was. That was awesome to see.
Hmm.
And when you have a good Derek Forward, he's a useful player. So if he's no matter how much he plays, and he can be that penalty kill guy that'll block any shot really. He's gonna those guys are useful in the playoffs, especially when a guy you got to help in that department and Andrew Peak is currently hurt. So, how did you feel about Forward? Do you feel like the same way?
Him, yeah, and I'm sure you're gonna get into it because I mean we've talked about it, and I've talked about my disdain for it. You have a win, you change up the lineup. It
Yeah.
tends to be Jim Montgomery's kind of MO here. And it can get annoying at some point. I didn't hate it though for this series. Like I was texting my uncle during the game and kind of said the same thing to him, that we both agreed that it seemed like Montgomery put an emphasis on, okay, yeah, maybe this guy hasn't played in a while. Same thing with who's the fourth liner they put out there, the center that
Patrick
hasn't
Brown.
played. Yeah, he was, I think, more for faceoffs. Obviously, I think there was more of an
Mhm.
injury thing there he was
Yeah,
covering
Book was
for,
had an
but
injury too. We found out
I feel
today.
like he's a more of a, like, not a tough guy, but a more physical guy too. So I kind of like Montgomery going with the more physical players to start this Florida series. Different look obviously than Toronto, the more finesse team. Florida, you're gonna have to go blow for blow with, and I like that he decided to go with some of these bigger guys. Give Forbort a shot, because I feel like people forget. I feel like Derek Forbort was. We were talking about him last year in this series against Florida as maybe their best defenseman out there. Like he was really good at times in
Good
that
point.
series
Yeah.
last year, if people remember. So I like the move. Yeah, it is kind of risky when you put a guy out there that hasn't played in a while. But it worked out perfectly fine. I think it'd be interesting to see if you can continue to get
Yeah.
that, not luck, but like we'll call it luck, because again, you didn't think Sporbert was going to do a whole lot first
Yeah.
game back in a while. But I liked it. I like the lineup changes. I like that he's out there. Obviously, like you said, it was more of a contingency thing if Carlo wasn't going to be able to go. Um,
Yeah.
Not having Shattenkirk, you do lose a little bit on the power play, which kind of stunk because I didn't think the power play was overly that good in this game. Um, but again, it
There's
kind of
one
comes
defenseman
down.
that's helping out with that, right?
Yeah, there
There's
is. We'll
one
get to him
defenseman
in a
that's helping
second.
out.
You'd like to see him
Um,
a little bit out there a little bit more, and I think you're going to because of how well
yeah.
he's played. But yeah, to answer your question, I kind of have prolonged this a little bit. I did like it.
No,
I
you're good.
do like that they went with Forbert. It worked out well, and I'm curious to see if it can continue to work as the series goes on.
Yeah, so I kind of figured they didn't announce it and really like confirm it until today that Boquist's absence was fully, if not just partially injury related. I
Yep.
got that sense when they framed it as an emergency call up, which they might just frame every call up in the playoffs as an emergency call up, especially
Hmm.
as close as it was to the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, he slots in. He took a penalty that was like kind of his fault, kind of not.
Very
It
dumb
is what it
penalty.
is.
Yeah. I like, dude, really
It
your
was
first chance,
dumb
and yeah.
at the end of the day. Ty Anderson made a good point that maybe this was reward based for him too. In the late regular season and the playoffs, he was a point per game player in his last 20 games.
Yep.
But the on the forward thing too, like there's the debate of him being cold because he hasn't played in a while, but like he's also been skating for a while, so maybe that gave them some
Yep.
confidence. Like maybe he isn't that cold anymore. Let's give him a shot. If you find a good forward, you have an effective player against a team like Florida, much different style, like you said, than Toronto. They had a 7-2 edge in high danger chances in the first period, despite getting their shit pushed early on. Great response by the team. The Kachuk goal was tough.
I know, right? It's the
He
fact that
shoots
he's
it.
the first one to score. Like,
Yeah, that was a tough feeling. It hits off Lindholm, which just shows like maybe if that doesn't happen, Swayman pitches a 38 save shutout or something.
very well
Uh,
could have, yeah.
throws things off a little bit. Bad clearing attempt by Charlie McAvoy. I'm not one of these people that's like been hating on McAvoy in the playoffs as much as some, but that was
It's
tough.
not been good
He
though.
like
Like,
he
it's
McAvoy to me is fine right now, but fine is not good enough. He can be better. I'm not gonna be doom and gloom about him like some people,
okay.
but he can be better. Uh
The mistakes are starting at, like, that one. You had
yeah,
was it? I can't remember if it
it's
was early in the
magnified.
Florida game or the Toronto game where he had the giveaway on the blue line, which led to a breakaway that
Yep.
Swayman had.
Hmm.
Like, his mistakes are. It'd be one thing if they weren't turning into things, but like they are becoming, and obviously in this case, a goal came out of it. Like, potentially very costly mistakes from a guy that you would
Hmm.
think you wouldn't have to worry about, and those type of things happening too.
Yeah, right.
So that's
Yeah,
like
it's
where I'm at.
just
Like I lean more towards, sorry to cut you off, but like
oh, you're good.
I'm on the other side of you. I lean more towards, like, you need more out of him. He has not been good in these playoffs, I don't think, just because of those facts alone. It's a guy that before you wouldn't have to worry about giving the puck away on the blue line and leading to an odd man rush or a breakaway chance. Now that's
All right.
come up a couple times, and it's a little glaring.
Yeah, it just the whole McAvoy thing just requires a little bit of nuance, which I hope to the listeners we just provided.
Hmm.
Geeky responds a minute and 7 seconds later off of some pretty terrible puck management by Ekblad on the wall.
Yep.
Pasta comes in, gets it to Zaka. Zaka crashes the net, frees it up. Maybe goaltender interference on Zaka there, but I understand why they didn't challenge and why it wouldn't be goaltender interference. But like, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised I didn't see some outcry about that one
Hmm.
on Twitter. Mason Lohrei plus 900. Thank you.
Very
Pat,
smart.
shout out to Pat. He knows who he is. Like, come on, that was just awesome. What a goal, perfect shot. That was like something you'd see like an elite NHL forward do, that type of shot placement.
I was pissed at
Huge
first because I
goal.
thought he hit the crossbar. Like, not gonna lie, my dad and I both watching the game were like, "Holy crap, that was a hell of a shot!" And then it's like, "Holy
Yeah.
crap, they actually went in!" Like,
Yeah, I was like texting you about Lowry like 2 minutes before that too. Then it goes in.
mhm.
Some patience along the wall leads to, or from Coyle leads to a free goal. Or not free goal, but you know what I mean. A goal on a free look for the new dad, Brandon Carlo. Um, Unbelievable. Couldn't bet on him to score. Would have.
Cowards
Um,
on DraftKings and
only
FanDuel for not
first,
allowing that.
only first and last. It is what it is. I don't even know if he's available to bet on to score in general because he's Brandon Carlo, but he's not
You would
known
think
as
a
a
point
scorer.
though,
But
like he wasn't even on there
yeah,
to get a point, which was the frustrating part that I had.
that's another thing too. Maybe he's never even on there to get a point. You never know.
True.
Maybe certain guys they just don't put out there. Like I don't think they put in like every bottom six forward for points,
No.
every bottom pair defenseman. Not that he's a bottom pair guy, but Justin Brazeau turns out, as we've seen a few times this year in his young NHL career, being ginormous and having a long reach helps because he can just go on the backhand and reach around a goalie to score. Like it's that simple. As long as he keeps the puck in his stick, he can outreach the goalie and score. That helps. Shout out to Don Sweeney for identifying Justin Brazeau as a guy worthy of an entry level
Absolutely.
contract. Uh, just spectacular. Um, this one a little controversial for Florida, and I get it. Lowry high sticked Lundell on the other side of the play before it happened, uncalled. Tough look. Is what it is. I think it should have been called, but it wasn't. You know, at this point, it is what it is. DeBrusque ends it an empty netter. Swayman was just out of this world. Like, what more can be said about the guy? I got a couple things, couple tweets here. Mike Kelly tweeted this out if it wants to load. Um, Swayman has the two best games by any goalie in the playoffs when it comes to goals saved above expected. And that was on the game against Toronto on April 20th and the other night against Florida. At the time, goals saved above expected. 12.1 on average for Swayman. The top four, Joe Woll, 3.9, who played a few games, not even a full series. Archer Shilovs, who just started playing this series, maybe a little bit last series, if I'm not forgetting. 6th-round pick a few years ago. He's a 2.7. It's just Durkin, who's played the whole playoffs at 1.8. This just
That's
paints
absurd.
again how preposterous Jeremy Swayman has been. There's another one I like how Tucker has been updating this sort of stat line he's got going from Boston Sports Info. He said Jeremy Swayman, goalies at or under 30 years old in the last 70 years to start the playoffs with a greater than or equal to streak of 7 games with 55 minutes played or more and goals allowed less than or equal to 2. Jeremy Swayman, that's the list.
Jesus.
He's had 7
You are getting a
games in a row.
historical run. That's for
7
sure.
games in a row with 2 or less goals is just Tim Thomas-esque. It's Tuukka Rask in 2013, particularly against the Penguins, where he had like a .85 goals against average-esque. It is truly spectacular. David Pastrnak got bundled by Chris Rooney, who both sides seem to hate here. Florida
That's
fans didn't
becoming
like that a
public
South
enemy number
Boston
one.
guy
Like,
to begin with, but there is a belief, and rightfully so, that he has not necessarily helped the Bruins with calls in the past. I thought the fall in the crease or near fall by Bobrovsky looked like some Tom and Jerry stuff. Whoop, 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 whoop,
I mean,
was nice.
slipping on a
That
banana
was
peel.
funny. That was a
Hmm.
good laugh. Yeah, like on a banana peel, something like that. Um, Man, just what a game. Forsling and Ekblad from these hockey stat cards, game score cards got absolutely caved in, which is surprising because Gustav Forsling is excellent and so is Ekblad. Well, maybe Ekblad's not excellent. Forsling's a little better. The Bruins game score impact though. Your top guys are Pastrnak, Lohrei, Zacha. Nice to see that from Zacha, who's had a tough playoff so far. Parker Wotherspoon, Trent Frederick, Brandon Carlo, Morgan Geeky, Justin Brazeau, and James Van Riemsdyk. Those are some depth guys and your one or two of your big guys, which is nice and that's awesome, but also shows that work can be done even in such an awesome game. But just illustrates the picture a little bit. These, factor in a lot of different things with these game score charts. And one more. I'm just throwing a little bit of stats at you here, people. Because this one was interesting because Charlie Coyle's the guy that's drawing the ire a little bit. Charlie McAvoy too. Sportsnet stats: most combined hits and blocks in the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs as of May 7th. McAvoy number 1 with 56, and Charlie Coyle with 50. So at least,
Not have guessed Coyle on that list.
yes, at least there are contributions being made. Like I said, I've made my peace with McAvoy. I'm not as hard on him right now as others, but things can change. It just takes one game. You just hope it starts tonight a little bit more. So, where are you at going into game 2 as we kind of shift into our overall thoughts on the series so far and going forward in the Panthers, the makeup of their team?
I hate that we only had one game to talk about. I really do, because we're gonna get into predictions here in a little bit, and I don't know what to think of this series because of on one side of it you have the Swayman stats that makes it seem like the guy's never going to give up more than 2 goals a game. The way he's going, he might not ever give up 1 goal and more than the goal a game, with how things have gone so far. So I wanna take the cheese on the Bruins, I really do, but we've been here before, we've done this before type of thing. I got to see more. I also think game 1 was maybe a little bit of a Bruins coming off an emotional game 7. They're up for the game, ready to go. Their focus is locked in, maybe more than Florida, who was off for what they said, a week, I think, on the broadcast. They had been sitting for,
Yeah,
or pretty close
and
to it.
in
So
Florida, like
yeah,
a
too.
nice little relaxing place to
Yeah,
chill.
absolutely. Play some
No, what I
golf,
think though,
maybe.
Ryan, they all should have went to Siberia to avoid the calming, soothing presence of the nice weather.
Hmm.
But they clearly just
Yeah,
didn't care
change it
enough.
up a bit.
Just shows where the mindset's at.
But yeah, I mean,
Some people need to ask these questions.
mhm.
I'll do it.
I'm glad that you do. I appreciate it. But yeah, I just don't know. I mean, Bruins obviously played Florida really well this season. They have not lost to them yet this year. Um, Florida's who they're missing. Who's the big name that they haven't had that killed the Bruins last year in
Bennett.
the playoffs? So that's a big storyline in this series too.
Yeah,
When is he going to come back?
I will
I would
check
have to
for you.
assume he's not playing tonight because I don't think he skated today. I thought I saw this morning.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like we would have heard something
yeah,
already. I'll
exactly.
check though.
So I
No
mean, if the
Sam Bennett in
Bruins.
morning skate, so yeah, doesn't look good.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, if the Bruins, if they can catch a break and not have him tonight, go up to not like I said, I got to see one more game. I got to see if they come out and play as well as they did in game 1 again. If they're able to steal another one, go up 2-0 heading home. My tune might change on this team right now, but I just I don't know, because again, we've seen Florida turn it on against this team before, play this team tough. Um, I think it's easy to say or safe to say that Florida on paper is the better all around team. But again, you have the Swayman factor of the guy who's been a brick house in net. It doesn't
Hmm.
look like he's gonna, give it up anytime soon. You have all these scrums in front and all these, high danger chances, and the guy comes away laughing like a maniac and smiling like he's having the time of his life out there. So he is
Yeah,
definitely a
he
guy that
loves
is
that.
is locked in right now. And that's one of the keys in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You get a hot goalie, anything can happen. So like I said, I know it's a crappy cop out answer to give, but
Nah, you're good,
I,
man.
I got to
I
see
get
more
where you're
games. I
at.
got to see more consistency.
No, I
Like,
think you're making a ton of sense. I have a little
mm,
different tune right now. I'm seemingly a little more confident that they can parlay this right now.
okay,
Because it's a team you, to some extent, have figured out regular season and playoffs.
yeah,
Not
absolutely.
completely. You just can't say they're totally figured out after one big win. Big win in the magnitude and the margin of victory. Um, I don't know. I feel pretty good. I think we've seen a lot of players come out and talk about how much Swayman means to this team, and just outside of the fluff, you're getting some really deep and appreciative answers. Like Lowell Ryan talking about McAvoy. There's something really right about this team right now. And
Hmm.
this is a no-brainer, but it's up to them.
Absolutely.
Because
Yep.
if they slip, Florida is very much good enough to fuck you over for
Yeah,
it.
take advantage of that
Um,
for sure.
and they're for sure going to try some different looks for Swayman. It'll just matter offensively, and for the defense for the Bruins if they can withstand them. So um, the Panthers on paper definitely a better team than the Bruins, but it doesn't matter if you can match up right in the playoffs. Any team can win in the playoffs, and the Bruins are
Absolutely.
riding high right now. And it's just up to them to harness their momentum. It's been a treat to watch lately. The Panthers averaged 3.5 goals in the regular season per game. The Bruins averaged 2.88, but here's the big difference. Or no, that
That's
was the
for
first
sure.
round. I said regular season by mistake. And maybe you might have put the game one in here. Bruins allowing just 1.63 goals against on average, 3.17 for Panthers against Bruins are 31.6% of the power play. Florida just 18.8. Bruins have killed almost 96% of penalties. Florida 81.8. Total save percentage with the goalies, 949 for the Bruins, 890 for the Panthers. And leading scorers, as you have noted here, Marchand with 9, Kachuk with 10. And Marchand, honestly, at times, these last two games hasn't quite even been Marchand from earlier in the series. And luckily for them, it's been fine. Like, it's not like me shitting on Marchand, but like
Hmm.
just another thing that this team is capable of. Like, we saw what Marchand can take over a game, and he's kind of lurking right now a little bit. Yeah, you're kind of wondering. He played solid for most of that game, I think, but you're kind of
Hmm.
wondering like, if you're
When's
Florida,
he gonna
like,
have the big?
what's Marchand gonna do now?
Yeah,
And
when's he gonna have the big moment?
that's a poker chip that the Bruins have that is very advantageous. Um, this is a team that can play you physical. They can out hit you. You need to make it a priority to forecheck. You need to keep up the penalty kill, which doesn't get talked about enough. It's Swayman and winning these big games with the penalty kill has been excellent. If you can
Yep.
keep that up, that's a real difference maker. Um, and there's a sense of belief in this group. The game one wasn't overly chippy. That could happen tonight.
I
It
think you
had some
saw
moments,
that
but
towards the end start to get
yeah.
like
Hmm.
how like if that's what this series turns into. How do you feel about that? Because I was listening today. They had Felger Maz had DJ Bean and Pete Blackburn on kind of talking about this series preview, and I thought Pete Blackburn made a good point of like we saw the Bruins last year try to match the Panthers' physicality, and obviously that's what Florida wants them to do, and that's what didn't work for the Bruins last year. Like they got playing Florida's games, and Florida obviously beat them in that sense. So he was, I feel like, kind of on the side of like don't get into the chippiness of the after the
Hmm.
whistle stuff, the cheap shot, and then maybe Florida does. He was more along the lines of like just Bruins play your game, don't stoop to Florida's level, and that's how you beat this team. Um, how do you like? Do you feel the same way, Connor? Or are you kind of more on
No,
the side
yeah.
like you would rather match
I
Florida's
think it's a great
intensity
line
and
of thinking, and I kind of wonder on the inverse, like, are we going to see Florida try and channel what they had last year, or are they just going to try and play a more responsible, smarter physical game? Because not like it didn't work last year,
yeah, absolutely.
but like if the Bruins aren't going to bite, the Florida Panthers are going to have to adapt. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. And
Hmm.
Pete brings up a good point. It's going to be an exciting series. Um, we also saw, although the Bruins started out hot, this Lightning team has taken some, bruises to their roster and health wise over the last couple of years. But like, this is a team that beat the Lightning in 5 games.
Hmm.
Still not an easy thing to do. So watch out for that if you're the Bruins. Um, let's check in on the series across the league real quick. Rangers have taken the first 2 games, both 4-3. Second one was in double OT, almost had 60 shots on goal. That was pretty nuts. A great series so far, as advertised. Two teams that really don't like each other, two division rivals. Um, and then we've got in the West, we've got Colorado over Dallas in game one, a 3-goal comeback last night. Archer Lehkonen couldn't get one more shot on goal to make me $65. That's kind of stupid and
Hate to see it.
inconsiderate, but that's where we're at there. That series is going to be awesome. Colorado's an underdog in that series, but I like them to win it. We saw what they did to Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a much different team than that than Dallas, but I think this is a winnable series for them. This is a team kind of like Edmonton in a different sense, can just score like 5 goals at will, and that's really hard to win against sometimes, believe it or not. Let's get into some predictions though. I'm going Bruins and over Panthers in 6. It's my official prediction. I was talked into Bruins over Panthers in 6. I was originally 7 before the game, and then I saw something that encouraged me, so I decided, with the game's performance as a whole. So I'm deciding to stick with 6. Bruins
Okay.
over Panthers in 6. Rangers over Hurricanes in 7. Um, I still think Carolina is gonna win one or two here, if not both. Both teams win, both at home. This series has to get to 7 to me.
Yep.
I don't think Carolina is going to roll over and die. Rangers can definitely win in 6. This isn't breaking any ground here by any sense, but that's where I'm at. I really hope that series goes the distance because that would, of course, favor the Bruins too. You want the team you're going to face if you move on to be as beat up as possible.
Hmm.
Um, we'll just encapsulate mine here and then go over to yours. I have the
Okay.
Oilers over the Canucks in 6. We found out today that Demko is out at least through game 4, but Shelov's, we've seen goalies you don't expect do things in the playoffs, and Shelov's has been okay so far. So we'll see what happens there. But I just think, even with a much better Vancouver group than we've seen in the past, much better defensively, Elias Pettersson's battling an illness right now, so we'll see how that affects the team and affects him. But I just think Edmonton's in a groove. They're so deep. Scoring wise, say what you want about their bottom 6. I think it's fine, but their scoring talent can overwhelm or overpower rather any fault in any game, and they're borderline unstoppable right now. Yeah, you have Draisaitl and McDavid, then you have Jaime, you have Bouchard. Skinner's a nice goalie. I don't see a scenario where the Canucks win. I'm sorry, Canucks fans, but the Demko stuff will hurt too. I think Shelovs is going to have the toughest test of his life in this series, and I don't know how well he's going to handle it. It's Oilers over Canucks in 6. I think the Canucks will battle. I think there are things you can exploit with Edmonton, and that series is going to be physical and it's going to be exciting. And I have the Avalanche over the Stars in 7. This one should go back and forth. Maybe a lot of high scoring games. I don't know if these teams are capable of having low scoring games with how things have been going for both of them in the playoffs. But I'm going to Avalanche over Stars in 7 because I don't know. I bet against the Avalanche against the Jets didn't go well. I absolutely think the Stars can win, but I'm not doing it. The Avalanche have a groove right now, and they didn't for 2 periods of the game largely, and they still found a way to win last night.
Were you laughing and chuckling at the same thing I maybe was looking at? Do you have the Bruins game on in the background there?
Was I laughing at something?
I looked like you were like smirking about something. I didn't know if it was the
Oh
same thing
no,
I saw because like we
no, what
obviously
happened?
we talked nothing crazy, just the fact that it kind of goes into the slight discussion we had about like Jeremy Swayman. Maybe I can't remember if my brain's not working tonight if we even said it on the show, but like Swayman's I did, yeah, I was the one that brought up the laughing in the crease thing. The psycho level that Swayman's on right now. Just look up and see the guy like staring directly into the spotlight that was over his head, just like giggling. Just to see that out of the corner of my eye again, guys on a different level
Yeah,
right now, psycho level type of shit. So,
yeah, and goalies are just weird. So
that too, but that feeds right into it. Like the guy was legit like staring into the thing. Like I'm gonna come out here and shut you guys out again tonight. So get ready for that.
they're already getting physical in front of that. Already a big save from Swayman himself.
You're slightly ahead of me
Um,
because the game just started on my TV.
oh no.
Yep.
I'll try not to spoil then.
Okay.
Couple quick notes before we switch to basketball, just for because this type of thing can go under the radar.
Mhm.
Bruins 7th round pick from last year, the big 6'6" Swedish defenseman from the 7th round. Christian Kostadinski, captain of Frölunda in the SHL, was drafted in the 2nd round of the USHL draft by the Dubuque Fighting Saints yesterday. So we'll see if he comes over to North America from Sweden. 6'6", 220. The billing on him has always been a big physical, nasty defenseman. So to see him in more attainably watchable hockey would be cool. Congrats to him. Just a quick note around the league. We had some coaching news. David Bannister got the interim tag shed as the Blues head coach. He takes over for 2-year extension to be their coach, 27th in team history. And we have the first chalk NHL lottery since 2010. No one moved. No one moved around. We had the
Surprising,
fake
yeah.
out by Buchagras of the rehearsal that everybody thought was the leaked order, which would have had Utah picking 2nd. Not the case. The Sharks win the lottery. They will land Macklin Celebrini. Good for them. Very cool. It would have been cool to see him go to Chicago, but I'm cool with San Jose, Celebrini, Bedard. But it is what it is. Chicago will still get an excellent player at 2. And something that I saw before the game, Fabian Lysell has been out for a little while. For the Providence Bruins will return to the lineup for Game 3 against Hartford in their 1st-round series tonight. He will play on the top line right away. Oh, big save by Swayman. Try not to spoil.
Okay. I don't
On
agree
the
with this
top line
penalty
with
that we were
Megna.
just given, but it's whatever.
What did you say?
I don't agree with this penalty that the Bruins were just given for the little scrum in
Oh, I
front.
missed it while I was talking. Oh, was it in the? Oh, that's lame.
Yeah, for the way the referee is ripping a guy's helmet off a penalty. Is this something I'm not privy to? Because the way the referee made a motion, like it looked like he was calling a penalty for.
Typically it is. Yeah, it is a
Okay, so
penalty.
that's why.
Yeah,
All right, that explains it then.
nowadays.
But still, Like that's what you call the first 10 seconds into the game. Give me a break.
Funny enough, remember that game in the regular season where Kachuk ripped off Wotherspoon's helmet and didn't get a penalty? Then Lindholm ripped off Bennett's helmet and got a penalty?
Yes, I do remember that.
Hmm.
Funny how that works.
It'd be funny if that happened again, but also unfortunate because that would be disadvantageous to the Bruins. Lysa will play on the top line for Providence tonight with Magna and Merkulov. That's a nice little top line. Big lift for them as they're missing Patrick Brown, who's up with the Bruins, Anthony Richard, who might be hurt. I don't think he's up with the Bruins, and Alec Regula on the back end. And that's it for hockey, Ryan.
I didn't
Let's
give
move
my
on to basketball.
predictions.
Oh, fuck. I get ahead of
Okay.
myself in the outline.
It's
I'm
basically
sorry.
what you did, so it's okay. I'm not
But to be
reinventing the wheel
fair,
here.
you should have cut me off to do your predictions before we got to the additional notes. So
It's whatever. It's fine. Again, it's not going to be anything too crazy. I have pretty much the same predictions you do, except for one, because again, I need one more game to be sold on a certain team. And I'm not setting myself up for heartbreak. It worked in the first rounds. I'm going to continue it in the second round. So to spoil that, I still have the Panthers beating the Bruins in 7 games. The Bruins come out and play like I said they did 2 nights ago, rather, and take a 2-0 series lead home against Florida. I might change my tune a little bit, but again, I still got to see more. I think that's you said it earlier, so I'm going to stick with it. I think that's a fair way to look at things. And then for the rest of them, Rangers and over Hurricanes in 7 games. I'm with you. I think that series has a chance to be just Rangers win the first 2 games in their home barn. Carolina goes home, evens the thing up at 2, and then it's back and forth right to the very end. Because those two obviously very similar teams. You saw that last night with a double overtime thriller. In the West, I am not shaken by the Avalanche going down 3-0 in that game because they came back and scored 4 straight goals unanswered. So I'm going to take them in 7 over the Stars. And then I'm with you. I think it's all Oilers in that series. Just one less game than you have. I have a gentleman's sweep of the Oilers over the Canucks in 5 games.
Real. We'd get in this scenario Bruins versus Rangers, Boston versus New York, and McDavid and Draisaitl versus McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen. That's special. That's special right there. That is special. All right, let's move on to basketball, Ryan. The Celtics took game 1 last night.
I got a maybe hot take for this Eastern Conference semifinals. So it might not be the hottest take, though, because I feel like a lot of people after game 1 might share the same thought process that I do. This series is going to suck. It's going to suck. It's not going to be entertaining. It's not going to be even worth watching, to the point last night where the guys on the TNT pre and post game show, I think it was the post game show, where Charles Barkley was basically like, do we even have to talk about this game? Can we just get to the Mavericks and Thunder game? And that game didn't even end up being all that entertaining either. That was a stinker from what I saw. But yeah, I mean, if the Celtics play up to what they should be, and Jason Tatum, who we'll get into in a second, just even slightly figures it out, because he has not, been the offensive juggernaut we've seen him be in the past, which is fine. He's done other things. I'm not going to get on Tatum. Like I've seen, not people get on him, but there have been some people questioning him because, of course, it's your best player. You're going to question the superstar when, he struggles. But again, I don't think Tatum's been that bad. The Celtics should steamroll the Cavs in this series. Like, this should not even be close. You saw it last night, a prime example in game 1 of this series. The Cavaliers, they're undermanned. They don't have Jared Allen. That's a huge loss for them. And it will continue to be until he gets back in this series. And I don't even think he's going to be 100% healthy when he gets back, because the guy's dealing with a rib injury. And I don't know how you can play basketball and have all that contact inside and not, re-injure yourself in that sense. Yeah. So I think not having him has obviously been a huge loss. Donovan Mitchell did everything he could last night, scored 33 points in 37 minutes. The guy looked gassed out there by the end of the game because, again, he was their one offensive weapon in the game. And as soon as you saw him go to the bench, you need to stop with the theatrics, because I don't know what's going on. I'm sure it'll come up in a second, but I don't like where you're at right now. But no, you saw the whole Donovan Mitchell thing. Oh, I'm assuming it was that Marchand's who you talked up missing a wide open net. That was pretty bad. Holy crap. Although you did see Lowry missing a wide open net in game 1, and then he scored like 4 minutes later. So that maybe it's a good omen for Marchand there.
Spin zone.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully we just spoke that into existence. But yeah, I mean, I think you saw what the Cavaliers' Achilles heel last night. Donovan Mitchell went off and still wasn't enough because he just doesn't have any help out there. Like, Garland did not shoot the ball well. Max Strus, who, as we've known in these Celtics and Heat series before in the playoffs, he's a streaky shooter. So if he goes cold, you're really not going to get anything out of him. So this series is what it should be. Tatum, like I said, he struggled, but he did other things well. 11 rebounds, 5 assists, had 3 blocks. I thought he was very good on the defensive end. 18 points on 7 of 19 shooting. Again, not the best, but when you have other guys like Jaylen Brown and Derek White, who have been your 2 best players in the playoffs so far, Pick up right where they left off from the Miami series. Brown with 32 last night. Derek White with 25 on 7 threes again. Like the guy has seemingly become Ray Allen out there when it comes to shooting 3-pointers. They were excellent in this game. You got 16 points off the bench from Peyton Pritchard. Like other guys are scoring for the Celtics. It's a series, like I said, where you're probably not even going to need Tatum to be, remotely close to the Jason Tatum we know. Again, listening to 98.5 today, Mark Bertrand basically said like you could probably sit Tatum in this series and you'd still probably win it in 4 or 5 games, which might not be the craziest take because again, when Tatum played as bad as he did last night, and you still won by 25 points, it kind of is what it is. Like I've done a lot of rambling so far to start this. I know you've been focused on the Bruins. So what did you think of this game? I'm sure you probably feel the same way I do. Maybe not to the sense of, it's going to be a crappy series because again, I don't think the Cavaliers have the firepower. But where are you at after game one? Again, I know we don't have a ton to talk about with these first couple games, with the Bruins and Celtics, of course. But your thoughts after a pretty dominating game one?
Yeah, the Jared Allen thing is interesting too. You made a good point. I didn't even really think about the ribs. That's just an uncomfortable injury to be in the paint with.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, like I thought it would be closer just because it's game one. The Cavs they still have a good team even without him, but it just you saw illustrated what the Celtics are capable of when they play near or at the top of their game. Yeah, I noticed Mitchell was pretty gassed at the end too.
Mm-hmm.
This team just has the right mojo right now. It's hard to bet against them in any sense. Derek White too, like he has become just like I can tell the future with Derek White. When he shoots, I can tell you what's gonna happen.
He's the most confident.
That's
We've talked about
special.
this before. Like he is the most. It's weird to say when you have a team of obviously when Porzingis is out there, but Tatum, Brown, Porzingis. The fact that Derek White, I feel like, is the guy that you feel the most, and by you I mean I feel like a lot of people, myself included, like you feel the most confident when Derek White puts a shot up. Like we've
Yeah.
talked about it before. Where fourth quarter, you need a big shot. I've told you numerous times. I would not hate it if it's Derek White taking that shot because the guy is
Yeah.
just. He has the clutch gene. He's turned it on. He knows when to step up in the big
Mhm.
moments, and he's been excellent. And again, is another reason why like your best player struggles, and you still have guys putting up. Your supporting cast is putting up 25 plus, and you're
Yeah.
winning games by 25.
Exactly. Like this game, if you needed it, gave you some reassurance that even if uh Jason Tatum doesn't have a great game by his standards or
Mhm.
anyone's standards, depending how you look at it. Jalen Brown, 32, played excellent. Peyton Pritchard, awesome off the bench. They're just too much depth. Like it would take a catastrophe for this series to get close. And if they stick to their game, Missoula does what he needs to do, making the decisions. It's going to be near impossible for the Caps to even make this series competitive.
Mhm.
And I hope that keeps up because it wasn't the most exciting game last night to me, but like that's fine. Like in a series like this, I'm cool with it not being this like high flying amazing game. There were some awesome moments for sure,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Yep.
the Celtics had control for a good chunk, and they painted a picture of what's likely to come because
Mhm.
they have many, if not all of the matchup advantages here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, that's the one thing where Cleveland could maybe hang their hat on is if they do get Jared Allen back at some point. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go tomorrow night for game two. I would have to assume no, the way things are trending for him. And the Bruins just cannot put the puck in the net. That's two they've had in the again, you're ahead of me, so you already know that happened. But yeah, like if the Celtics don't have Porzingis and the Cavs get Allen back, like that is a matchup that favors the Cavaliers because then you have the double big of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and that might cause some problems for the Celtics. Obviously, we know the Celtics rely on the 3-pointers to begin with. But if you have those two mammoths in the paint, like maybe that gives them some second guessing about wanting to drive the ball in the paint. Maybe they want to rely a little too much on the 3-pointers. But regardless, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I wonder if it's the type of thing moving forward, like the Celtics will just sit there and go, okay, we'll let Donovan Mitchell get his 30 plus. We know there's nobody else on this team that's going to beat us or is going to help him out. And again, if he has to play 35 plus minutes a night and is doing all the work out there, like his body's going to wear down. He's only going to get more tired as the series goes on. So that's something, like I said, I wonder if the Celtics just kind of bite the bullet on that one and are like, yeah, we'll let him single-handedly try to beat us. It's not going to happen because, again, we have, 3 or 4 guys that we can rely on to get points. I mean, I didn't even put in the outline, but Drew Holiday probably had one of his better games all around in the playoffs. I think he had 14 points last night, hit a couple of big threes when things were getting a little hairy. Cavaliers did make it interesting in the first quarter. I think it had a lead at one point too, but after that, the floodgates opened. And again, too, the thing on Tatum, like the guy is not going to score 18 points the rest of the way. Like he's going to figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
So that just makes the Celtics even more scary. You're gonna get Porzingis back at some point. There were reports that he is apparently doing better than most people thought and is making a
Yep.
faster
He's
recovery than
walking
people
pretty good.
expected. To that I say,
He shed the boot that he initially had pretty quickly too
like a
around the
day
time.
after, yeah, it was weird. They showed
So
him
maybe
leaving
that
the.
was just precautionary. It could be that simple. Like maybe it's not as crazy as we thought. But like
Mhm.
he was moving decent and like again, it goes back to the point like the Celtics should be able to win the series pretty easily. Like, do you even play Porzingis if he's healthy this
That was
series?
the point I was going to make. I was going to transition it to that this report came out and all this. I'm fine. I'm happy that this news is good, that he's progressing better. In this situation, I don't care.
No.
Do not play him in this
I'm
series
just
at
gonna
all
say
unless,
no. Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
say no.
unless you go down like you lose the next 3 games somehow and your backs are against the wall again for a second straight playoff series and you're looking at doom and gloom. Then you bring him back, but you don't need him. You got great minutes from Luke Cornett last night, who had like 7 rebounds, or he might have had like 3 or 4 blocks as well. Trying to pull the box score up here to see what it was. For Cornett, 21 minutes played, 10 rebounds, only had 2 blocks. I thought I heard somebody say he had more. 6 offensive rebounds. Like Cornett did his job perfectly fine. You got a little bit of Kada and Tillman at the end of the game as well too. So you are more than capable of beating this Cavaliers team. And again, like not to just dump on the Cavs entirely, because obviously had to play a tough series against Orlando to get where they are. They're not a scrub team by any means. They're better than the Heat. Like I found it funny. There was an interview I heard with Jaylen Brown the other day, and he was asked, what's different about playing this Cavs team than your last opponent in the Heat, and he basically kind of gave an interview like you could tell didn't want to say like this team is way better than Miami. And he was struggling to figure it out. He's like, yeah, they kind of have some more offensive firepower and some. He basically was like, I don't know, like they got some size. Like you could tell he basically wanted to be like, the team we just played sucks, like we should have blown them off the floor in 4 games. So I found that kind of funny. I feel like he like personally hates the Heat, which I'm fine with because I hate the Heat too, and I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah.
And I like having some players with some animosity towards other teams. But yeah,
Aminosity like anemone.
yeah, and then Anemone. You did bring up an interesting point though. You said, I'm drawing a blank here now. What you said. Your point of like this should be easy. A cakewalk into the next round. And then again, I'm gonna reference Feller and Maz here because I thought they had an interesting discussion today on is that something you want for the Celtics team? Like, do you want them to have a
Don't
little bit of
care.
pushback, and that was one of the sides of the argument was who cares? It's the
Don't
age old
care.
argument of you play who's in front of you and you beat who's in front of you. It doesn't matter, if they're the 1 seed, the 8 seed, whatever it is. You play
This
who's on
is
the
also a
schedule.
Celtics team that like they're very good, but they haven't won a championship since 2008. Just get one. Who
That was
cares
Felger's
if it's
side of the
easy?
argument. He said he was
Just
like, it
get
doesn't
one.
matter who you play against, just get the championship and feel good about it.
And
Maserati was kind
hey,
of on the pushback side, but
like the winning the finals isn't even a guarantee. Like whether you get the
nope,
Nuggets or the Timberwolves, who are playing great right now. Like
you're probably gonna get the
look,
Timberwolves the way it's going.
you want to favorite the Celtics, but like get like you still have a potential very good opponent if you get to the finals. Like
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
another thing that requires a little bit of nuance.
But that was kind of the argument too, and it is an interesting point. Where do you want the pushback to come in the NBA finals? Like, do you want to have all these cupcakes? I'm not to
No,
say like the Knicks or Pacers are going to be pushovers in the next round, but again, like they're not the Milwaukee's. They're not. I know they choke in the playoffs, but they're not the Philadelphia's. Like those big matchups that you get up for because you've seen those teams before and you have all this history with them in the playoffs before. They're not the Miami Heat at full strength. Like I know we dump on the Heat, but the Heat at full strength is a better, more interesting matchup than the Knicks or the Pacers or the Cavaliers. Like it's a series the Celtics will get up for. We know that.
Mhm.
So it is an interesting thing. Like I'm with you. I would lean more towards on the side. Like I don't care who you get, just beat them and win the championship. Get your first one,
Yep.
and then have to worry about in future years who you end up playing and whatnot. I do find it funny all the people on social media that are crying about, oh, the Celtics have an easy route to the NBA Finals. Yeah, it's crazy what happens when you earn the number 1 seed in the regular season, and you have to get the better of the matchups. Crazy how that works for the people that don't want to take the regular season as a important little feature there. But yeah, I'm with you to wrap it up here, and before we get into predictions and the conference the check-ins and stuff, just beat whoever's in front of you. Like, and then the Celtics obviously too, unless they get Denver, you'll have a team that's been to the finals. But like you get there against Minnesota, that's a young team that's never been there before. they might crack and slip under pressure there. OKC, same thing, super young team. No one even expects them to win or going into it, expecting them to like win one series and then get bounced in the second round. They're a team that I feel like could be, the Celtics from the Warriors NBA Finals of, team that gets there and is a little, not ready for the big lights just yet. So
Yeah.
I would like a little bit of pushback. I don't think it's going to come in this series. I think this is, to spoil my prediction, I think this is a sweep. Like the Celtics should get rid of the Cavs pretty easily here, and move on to take on either the Pacers or the Knicks.
I'm with you. And yeah, it comes back to like you get that pushback in the conference finals if you get there, and that's okay. And even in the future years, if we're in a similar scenario, I don't care if they don't get pushback. Just play who is in front of you and win, because you can even lose to the team that you are heavily favored against.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it happen before. It happened last year with the Celtics team.
Yes, true, Ryan. Pacers and Knicks. Knicks won at 21 to 117. This series is going to be pretty good, much more competitive than the Celtics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am going with Celtics over Cavs in 5. I will go Knicks over Pacers in 7. I do think that goes the distance. The Timberwolves keeping this run going. They're undefeated in the playoffs. Who saw that coming? Me. I did. No, I'm just kidding. But I was confident.
You just didn't tell anybody. You have it written down on like
I'll do a little
Post-it note
victory lap.
somewhere.
I was confident in the Timberwolves. Didn't
You
think
were,
they could have done it before, but they got the mojo. Anthony Edwards is a franchise player. He's just, you have to be good, but then when you do this in the playoffs, it's different. It adds to your legacy. It adds to
for a long time.
It adds to the discussion around you, and it's really impressive. It's not like he's coming out of the dark and doing this. He was a first overall pick, but it's tremendously impressive. They dominate in game 2. They don't dominate as much in game 1, but then the Mavs and Thunder should be a fun series as well. A lot of firepower there. I'm going Timberwolves over Nuggets in 6 and Thunder over Mavericks in 7.
I'm right there with you on a lot of these. Like I said, I can't see, unless the Celtics they go up 3-0 and kind of are like, all right, let's win this thing in Boston, or like we'll just sit back and maybe be nice and give the Cavaliers one. I can't see the series going more than 4 games, because again, like people kind of said that like in this series preview, people were like, oh, the Cavaliers will get one because Donovan Mitchell will have his big game. He'll go for 30 plus at some point and carry the team. That happened and they lost. Like, unless he's got another 50-point game, that he can pull out of his ass at some point, and Tatum, curses the rest of this team, and Brown and White start to struggle, then maybe the Cavaliers make it interesting. And again, maybe they get Jared Allen back and that changes that dynamic a little bit. It's all Celtics for me. 4 games for them. I'm with you. Knicks over Pacers in 7. This series should be the dogfight out of the 2 series that are left. Game 1 was a perfect showcasing of that, right down to the wire. But it did show to me too that both these teams are beatable. Like if you watched the end of that game, especially too, like the late game execution for both these teams wasn't great. The Pacers gave the ball away a couple of times. Knicks again didn't execute really down the line at times. Bruins just went up 1-0. I saw, was it Marchand or Coyle who scored?
I bet on him. Yes, sir.
Jesus Christ, you're on fire with that.
Yeah, kind of lost my train of thought there. But about the Celtics, me giving the Cavs a game, it's gut feeling, guys.
I was gonna ask you where, like, if you had to pick a spot, where game 3, game 4, what are you thinking for that one little Cavs
Don't know.
win?
I just think it'll happen, and I think I'm going to be wrong. It's that simple. If I'm not authentic here, people.
Fair enough. I'll give credit where credit's due. Absolutely. But yeah,
Charlie Coyle backdoor, baby.
That was a nice
first goal of playoffs. 25th of his playoff career.
Good to see Zaka get involved too, because he's been a guy that's been kind of quiet. So
he's never scored a playoff goal in his career yet.
That's surprising. I don't know why.
He hasn't played a lot of playoff games. I don't remember
in
New Jersey, but he did play last year.
Yep.
That's where we're at in the NBA, Ryan. Do you have any other closing thoughts on basketball?
You didn't let me finish my predictions again. I only did the Eastern Conference.
I got distracted. I'm not gonna lie. I got distracted by the goal. I blame the Bruins
doing
God damn it, Bruins scoring during the show again.
I know.
Maybe people don't know. Maybe this is just a running bit. You never know. Maybe it's
how insensitive of them. Yeah, this is going to be a new thing. But yeah,
it's just a running bit that I cut you off all the time in the predictions.
Fine. To finish it up though, I'm going with the Timberwolves as well. Timberwolves in 5. I think that series is over. Like, I want to give Denver a fighting chance, but I mean, they have made Denver look sped up. Like, no other team has done that. They look uncomfortable. A lot of Denver's play relies on perfect pass here, obviously work the ball around and get an open shot. Denver has not been able to do that in this series at all. You said it, Anthony Edwards, he is a superstar. super mega star, whatever you want to call him. And again, like you said, this is something you could see coming. He was very good his first couple years in the league, but the fact that he is taking over like he has, where people are now starting to compare him to Michael Jordan, which is a little crazy. Just let's pump the brakes there. He's been phenomenal. I've seen some people kind of say too his biggest accomplishment so far is to get Karl Anthony Towns to step up his play, because this is a guy that I was not too high on going into the playoffs, because we've seen him kind of falter in these big moments, shy away from the big moments here and there at times. But he's been excellent. He has shut down Jokic in this series. Same thing with Rudy Gobert, who didn't even play game 2 and you still blew him out. Naz Reid's been phenomenal in this series as well. So the Timberwolves are a lot deeper than I thought they were. And you got Anthony Edwards running the show. I can't imagine Denver. You'd like to see him make a comeback, because you like that series to be interesting. It has the potential to be one of the more entertaining series all around if the Nuggets can get back into this. I just don't know if they can. Like, they've looked so deflated after these first 2 games. And the Timberwolves, like you said, haven't lost a game yet, or is riding high as they possibly could be. So that series, I don't think is going to last too long. OKC and the Mavericks, that's really a toss-up for me. I think both those 2 teams are even. I wasn't really impressed by either one of them watching the game last night. Luka did not have a good game, to which I think a reporter asked him about it, and he basically was like, it doesn't matter. We lost. Like, we'll move on to the next one. But OKC's kind of in that same boat Minnesota is. They're playing with a lot of firepower right now. Good young team. Shea's been very good. Holmgren, I thought, was decent in the game last night. So I'm going to go with the Thunder as well in 6. Wasn't really all that impressed by the Mavs. Like I kind of texted you, there were moments in that game where I don't know how Luka Doncic was a walking triple-double this year, because his supporting cast at times, they look, outside of Kyrie, they look like bums out there. Like, some of the shots they were missing, I'm like, how the hell is Luka getting this much help in the regular season? Because he's not getting any in the postseason right now, or at least in that game. So we'll see how it goes. It should be an interesting NBA playoffs. Again, Celtics series, I can't imagine is going to be more of the more fun ones to watch if you're an outside NBA fan. For Celtics fans, it'll obviously be good, because, again, we think it'll be over pretty quickly. But that's pretty much all I got for NBA stuff, unless there's anything else you wanted to add, or any thoughts you had, on stuff moving forward.
Nope. I got all my thoughts out.
All right.
All right. As we are at about the 6.5-minute mark left in the first period, thank you so much for listening to episode 192 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. We're available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate and review there, YouTube and Twitch. Go follow us. Check us out there. You can find us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty and at Ryan_Salvaggio. And you can find the show at Sound and Cratty Pod. You can find us on TikTok, Salvaggio and Cratty. Throw that into the search bar. We'll talk to you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice people. Go Bees, go Seas. We'll talk to you then. Peace out.